As the Leader Grows. I am your host, Ken Jocelyn, and I have got a super special treat for you guys today. I met this guy through one of my great friends, Brian Covey. Those of you guys listen to podcasts, you know he's one of my 5 guys on my text thread every single day with guys like Gary Brecka, Randy Garn, Vic Keller, and Brent Gove. Bryce Henson, who is the CEO of Fit Body Boot Camp. I don't know if you're watching this on YouTube or if you're listening on the car. If you're watching on YouTube, boy's got some guns over here. He looks like he's been working out with Brian Covey. Bryce, dude, thank you for joining us on As the Leader Grows.
My man, Ken, thanks so much for having me. Very excited to be here today.
I'm pumped, dude. We've been talking off air about leadership.
Yes.
And leadership is, for the past 25 years, I spent about half of that as a business owner and then the other half in full-time vocational ministry. And it's all been about leadership. And so talk to me real quick about what Fit Body Boot Camp is. I know Bedros, but tell our audience a little bit about, I want to get to your journey of how you got to where you're at, but just talk about Fit Body Boot Camp and what you guys do.
Yeah, so Fit Body Boot Camp, we're the fastest growing indoor fitness boot camp franchise on the planet. We have nearly 300 locations throughout North America. About 90% of those are in the States, about 10% in Canada. And we specialize in high intensity interval training. 30-minute sessions are secret sauce. So instead of hiring a one-on-one personal trainer, which can provide results, but if we can do that in a group setting for a fraction of the price, you build community, you build relationships. We get twice the results, twice the workout in half the time is our adage, if you will. So that's a little bit about our fitness program at Fit Body.
I love that. So you started out as a franchisee.
I did.
Just so tell me what got you there. What was the backstory before you went to, be a Fit Body Boot Camp franchisee?
Yeah, well, we have a lot in common. So I know you spent a lot of time in Atlanta, Georgia. My first 10 years were spent in Atlanta.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, so Southern roots, if you will, but unfortunately, but it was actually a blessing. It was a blessing disguised as a tragedy. My father was a drug addict, addicted to alcohol and gambling, not the trifecta for a good family upbringing, but when I was about 10 years old, my mom got us out of that by the grace of God, and we landed with my grandma in the state of Michigan. So that's where I spent the latter part
Which is where I'm from.
Really?
I was born in Detroit and I grew up in Pontiac.
Oh, look at that. We just flipped. We just flipped, Ken.
Yeah.
So in any case, yeah, so I ended up going to Michigan State.
I'm a Michigan fan, but I won't hold that against you. Not at all. But anyway, go ahead, little brother.
I was going to say this past year, you guys got one on us, so I can't, don't have anything for you.
Yes, we did.
But moved out to LA when I was 21 years young, and I was excited to be in California, the blue skies and the beaches, all that LA has to offer. But Ken, I didn't have fitness in my life. I didn't have personal growth in my life. I didn't have the energy, enthusiasm I do now. And until a fortuitous situation happened. One of my best buddies from college moved out west, and he was my first unofficial fitness mentor. And he introduced me to lifting weights, to circuit training, clean nutrition, but most importantly, the coaching and accountability. And over a period of 2 years, but hyper-focused over 6 months, I dropped 20 pounds of body fat. I put 20 pounds of lean muscle. But way more important than that, it changed my life, Ken. It gave me this outlook on I guess life, vibrancy, and I wanted to be a coach. I want to give this gift of fitness back that I was granted. And this is about 2010 timeframe, and I went through my own certified personal training experience. And after I did, we were talking about Bedros offline, I updated my Facebook profile, the certified personal trainer. I started receiving ads from this guy named Bedros Keuilian talking about a fitness franchise called Fit Body Boot Camp. And this is back in 2010, 11. I was doing some research, and as we talked a little bit off the show, I ended up starting my first Fit Body franchise location back in 2012. And I'm going to give you the highlights. There's a lot of lowlights and learning lessons along the way, but from the period of 2012 to 2018, scaled to 5 locations, brought my family on board, my mom, my wife, my sister, and just had a lot of success. And that was really my entrance into the fitness realm within Fit Body. And then in later years, when our brand was really starting to grow and expand, Bedros reached out to me, one more owner presence in the brand, and eventually made me the vice president, which ended up being the CEO role. And that's how I got in a position to oversee this international fitness franchise, coming from the Midwest, humble roots. I used to run out of money before I used to run out of a month, and I was allergic to lifting weights, and now I'm the CEO of a fitness company. Go figure.
I love that. I don't know if you've seen this or not, but let me show you this real quick. This, my friend, is my before and after picture.
I've said doing some research,
bro.
On my friend.
That's 85 pounds right there. Yeah, but yeah, so the journey. obviously you didn't have to lose 85 pounds, but the journey for me, I tell people now, I get hangry if I don't get in the gym in the morning. Like I literally, if I don't work out, I got a Peloton, I'm Orange Theory
I
guy.
was
I've
gonna
done
say you do
500
it.
F45 classes.
Good
Yeah,
on you,
F45
man.
was huge over the past several years for me. Talk to me about the journey, Bryce. I think that's the biggest thing because I love what you said just a minute ago. There's a lot of highlights, but there's also a lot of low lights.
Oh yeah.
Like, people see where you're at now. Now you're the CEO of the fastest growing, indoor kind of boot camp style
Mhm.
workout location. Walk me through some of those. You get your first franchise. You went from one to five location, one location to five. Walk
Yep.
me through some of the struggles and some of the things that you learned in those beginning days, Bryce.
Well, Ken, why I love leadership. Number one, I love people. I love
Yeah.
building teams. I love creating vision. But very candidly, I realized I had a leadership deficit. So when I got
Mm,
into the business, I was excited from a fitness perspective to, help people with their fitness and fat loss and really help them from a mind, body, and soul perspective. And that was my big focus. And I could do that. I could run sessions. I can get people fit. But then when my business started to grow, I needed to bring on more
that's so
coaches and
good.
more trainers. And I realized, Ken, that they didn't have the same enthusiasm and vigor that I did. And really, when I unpeeled the onion, what I realized is I just had a lack of leadership. I wasn't good at,
Mhm.
identifying a mission, clarifying a vision. I wasn't getting good at feedback. All the things that I needed to do in order to be a better leader, I wasn't. And I think that big aha was really the big aha I had, that I love leadership even more than I love fitness. And that's really
Mhm.
what continued me on that trajectory.
I love that. John Maxwell says it's the law of the lid. We talked about a little bit off air, and John's one of
Yeah,
his
yeah.
the 21 laws of leadership. As the leader grows, the organization goes. And which is why I call my podcast As the Leader Grows, because it
Love it.
really is about, the bucks always stops here. What were some of the like what was a tough moment, in the process of starting and going from one location to five locations? Like what was something that you dealt with? And I know the COVID deal had to be like,
Oh yeah.
especially in California. It's not like it was in Birmingham and in Atlanta where they're like, hey, we're gonna work out, you just leave us alone and do what you want to do, kind of thing.
Alabama is open for
Yeah.
business, is what your
Yes.
governor used to spring over the air
Yes.
raids, which I love
Yeah.
her so much.
Yeah. FK was
Unfortunately,
great.
our California governor had a different tune.
Mhm. Well, unless he wanted to go to English Laundry and have dinner when everybody else is shut down,
you
he didn't
know,
have a problem doing that, did he?
I tell you, leadership, you got to have moral authority. Talking about John Maxwell,
Man,
that's
yeah,
certainly a frustrating thing for sure.
yeah. Well, talk to me about some things you learned. What are some mistakes you made? Because one of the things I share with people a lot is, you can learn a lot from your own mistakes,
Mhm.
or you can learn from mine. Mine will just cost you less.
Ooh,
Like you don't have to pay
amen.
the price I had to pay. People will say, Ken, you're so wise. I'm like, I don't know if it's because it's gray hair that I've got in my beard, or it's because of all the mistakes I've made in 55. I've made a lot of mistakes, but also got a lot of great friends and a lot of great mentors that have taught me a ton. But what are some of the lessons going from, being an entrepreneur, doing Fit Body Boot Camp and going into five locations? What are some of maybe one or two lessons you learned throughout that process, Bryce?
Yeah. Well, I'd say number one, slow is smooth and smooth is fast. I probably
Mm,
can, if I'm being very honest with you, my second location I launched too prematurely. I didn't have all the
mm,
systems, the infrastructure built to the level that I needed to make that
mm,
second location really hands off. So I was able, with grit and determination and passion, I was able to make it work. But probably the first 12 to 24 months of my second location were probably a lot more challenging than they should have been if I would have
mm,
built the proper team, had the proper infrastructure in place, and really make sure all my systems and processes were super dialed in before opening that second, third, and fourth. So that was one, one oversight. The second, this sounds so trivial, but I understood the law, or the importance of creating a strong feedback culture. And I'll never forget
mm,
when I walked in my second location one time, I had to have a change in manager. And unfortunately, my previous manager wasn't working out. So I come into the gym one day, and this is, very green in my entrepreneur leadership journey. And I decided, you know what? Hey, I had to replace myself, or the old manager. I'm going to be the new manager here. I need a sales office. I'm actually going to change the sales office from the equipment office because I like the offices in different order. So I did what I wanted to do. I was the, the CEO of the business. So I'd end up changing the offices, one from the office, one in the equipment room. And on Monday morning, I come in and my team, and one coach specifically, she's viscerally like upset, thinking like, what just happened? The rooms got shifted, this, that, and the other. And I'm thinking myself, like, the ego kind of like starts flaring. I'm thinking it's my business, my risk. I'm taking all the X, Y, and Z. The hairs on my neck go up. And what I
Mm,
realized at the moment in time is, as a leader, yes, I had the authority, I had the responsibility to make that decision, but creating a strong feedback culture is important to be able to showcase the vision where we're going, be able to provide the space for your team to be able to provide feedback. And at the end of the day, as a leader, I still could have made that decision to move forward and change the offices. But if I would have been able to provide space to receive feedback in advance, the decision and the buy-in would have been that much better. So that's a very small, little, trivial learning lesson in the grand scheme of things. But I learned in that moment in time, I need to be able to provide space and a strong feedback culture, and that's the only way that my business is going to grow and I'm going to grow as a leader.
so talk to me about the conversation when you realized that. What did the conversation look like when you went back to your team and said, "Hey guys, I didn't handle this the way I should have."
And that was it. And that was it. So yeah, I just had to own it. And I came back in
Yeah.
there kind of like with my tail between the legs. And my coach, her name is Kelly. And I said, hey, Kelly, listen, first and foremost, I am so apologetic. I shouldn't have had that initial reaction from the conversation. In fact, your recommendation, it was good intention, right? As a leader, my job should have been able to clarify the vision, provide visibility of what we're doing, and then listen to your feedback. I might have still made the same decision at the end of the day, but I should have been able to provide you that space. And by taking ownership, by apologizing, it ultimately worked itself out.
Yeah.
So that was the good
And I found a
resolution.
lot, a lot of the people on our team, they don't necessarily want us to agree or adapt what they say. They just want to be heard.
They want to be heard.
They just want to know, man, does my voice and does my opinion matter? And if, as a leader, if you want to grow and scale your company, you've got to have people that you want to hear from. You've got to have people that you trust, that you don't. And I've heard this, John said this a long time ago. Never delegate tasks, delegate authority. Like, you want to give them authority. You want it to
Mhm.
be their own. You want them to be owners and stakeholders in what you're doing in your business. Like that's what you want to happen. So you scale 1 to 5. So
Mhm.
you're at 5, and then all of a sudden the opportunity, you're growing, you're learning as a leader.
Yeah, yeah,
And then you get the call from Bedros to go, hey, we'd love for you, because obviously he recognized
yeah,
that
yeah.
you're crushing it. Yeah.
Very
Walk
humbling,
me through that process.
So it's interesting, Ken. I think this is so important to have vision, to have a strong vision, be rigid on the vision, but be flexible in the details. And Jeff
Mm,
Bezos of Amazon said this a while
mm,
back, and I just believe I buy in it so much because when I first started my entrepreneur journey within the Fit Body Bootcamp franchise, my vision was to have, over 10 locations. Well,
mm,
I was about halfway through there. So when I get the call from Bedros, number one, I was flattered, I was humbled. Being very candid, Ken, I was like, me? Wait, me? I was doing my thing, I was building businesses, but at the end of the day, I was still, very humbled the fact that I would get that call. But after I did, and we had a good conversation, I took a step back and I realized, you know what? This wasn't my initial thought. I thought I was going to be a franchise partner owning, at least 10 locations by myself. But I can probably make a bigger impact. I can help more people. I can inspire more fitness and change more lives, which is our company mission. If I take a step back and actually link arms with Bedros and the franchise at the franchisor, because then I can have a bigger impact and really scale the brand. So, very candidly, Ken, it took me about a month to fully wrap my head around the opportunity. But I came back to Bedros about a month later and said, B, man, I would love to do this. This is my vision. I want to
mm,
impact a lot of lives, and
mm,
ended up, accepting the offer, which then was the vice president role. And this is about a year and a half before COVID. I was fortunate to build a lot of infrastructure. One of the first things I did, I turned to Bedros and said, hey, Bedros, who better to coach our franchise partners to success than the most successful franchise partners? And that was the birth of our coaching and profitability team, which we ended up enrolling 5 of our most successful franchise partners to be able to coach and mentor other franchise partners.
mhm,
And that's just been a huge, huge catalyst towards our growth,
mm,
and us being able to, overcome, not only survive
mhm,
COVID, but
mhm.
actually thrive from it.
I love that. What do you think? What do you think is the main reason that keeps most leaders away from making a decision like you made? You were your own boss. You had your own business, And yet somebody comes and casts vision to you, and you were like, you said it took me a month to realize the opportunity. What do you think keeps most people from stepping into opportunities like that and maybe still wanting to do their own thing? What was the thing you saw that you were like, okay, I'm willing to give up this so I can do this?
Yeah. Ego. I think it's
Mm.
ego. I mean, to answer that question, and that's
Yeah.
just one answering it specific to me, but also two, seeing other leaders, seeing other business owners making decisions that sometimes aren't in their best interest, and they let their ego get ahead of them. And for me, I was very proud and excited to be able to launch my own businesses and have full autonomy over those. And my vision was I was going to be the stakeholder, I was going to be the CEO. And for me, having that autonomy was very, very important. And when the opportunity, even though vice president for international fitness company, that seems like a great
Yeah.
opportunity,
It's
but it
huge. Yeah.
but it really also, I realized that I'm not going to have full autonomy and control. So what's that going to look like? How is that going to be? And initially my ego was like, hey, I don't know if this is the right decision, but and I took a step back, a little piece of humble pie, realizing the mission over the man, realizing I could craft a way bigger opportunity. I can help way more amount of people. I can learn and grow
Mhm.
as a leader. At that point in time, I realized I really love leadership, and it was a way bigger opportunity for me. So I decided within about 30 days, I let the ego go, Ken. And then I swallowed my pride and realized, you know what, this is going to be a bigger opportunity for me, for my following, for my community, and for my franchise partners and clients. And I'm so glad I did. And the rest, as they say, is history.
I love it, dude. They say that your ego is not your amigo. Like it's not, man. It will get in the way. And I was curious to see what your thoughts were on that, because one of the things you said that I kind of went, oh, was you talked about impact and influence. You said, I realize I can do this on my own and I can have a great impact. But if I partner with these guys, man, it multiplies.
Well, think about
My
you, Ken. I
impact
mean,
becomes exponential.
yeah, think about you. I've been connecting and following you for quite some time here. It's the influence, the people that you work with,
Yeah.
the heavy hitters on your list. And at the end of the day, when you work and you surround yourself with really strong people, strong leaders on a focused vision, you can do way more than just doing alone. And that was the conclusion I
Yeah.
came to myself.
Yeah, I love that, man. I absolutely love that. What would you say are some of the biggest things? So you went from, you know, trying to get in shape, getting fit, wanting to do a gym, becoming a franchisee, which had to be a huge step for you,
Mhm.
doing that. I mean, because you graduated from Michigan State, so I assume you're not that intelligent because you didn't go to Michigan. No, I'm just joking. Everybody was like, I can't even believe he
Fighting
said that.
words, man.
I know,
Fighting
right?
words.
I had to throw it out there really quick. So it's funny because I have a really good friend of mine who has she has a doctorate and she has a doctorate from Michigan State. And I was like, I said, so a doctorate from Michigan State, that's about the equivalent of an associate's degree from Michigan, right? But anyway, for all of you guys who have no idea, I'm a Michigan guy. He's a Michigan State guy. So anyway, but what are some of the things you would say becoming, as a CEO and walking through this journey and just the growth and the development in yourself? What are some of what are some of the key lessons you've learned since you become now a CEO and you're over the entire brand?
Yeah. Pressure's a privilege. At the end of the
Mm,
day, you're going to be in the hot
that's
seat.
good.
When you're the leader of the organization, we're the
Yeah.
CEO of the organization, your butt's going to be in the hot seat at times. And you got to be able to lead with conviction first and foremost. The number two, and you've referenced John Maxwell. I've seen you and a couple
Mhm.
times with him interviewing, which is this,
Mhm.
hats off. He's a legend in my
Yeah, he's good.
eyes, unbelievable. And what I realized is you got to lead with moral authority. I never knew that word until listening to John, but it's really just walking your talk. And
Good,
what I
man. That's
realized,
it.
to be the most effective CEO, the effective leader, I have to work on my character first and foremost. I have to build the guy that other people admire. And when I do that, that actually creates the most influence for me. So
Yeah.
a very humbling moment realization, but it's an inside job. It's an inside game, personal growth development. And I think that's been a huge, huge takeaway for me on my journey to be a better leader.
What are some of the things you do with your team to ensure that they're on that same pace of growth as well? What are some of the things you do to foster that, or some of the framework that you use inside your organization to help that happen?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, like ongoing training, right? Being able to provide, list of education, podcasts, resources, events, team trainings are absolutely incredible. Not only from a tactical perspective, but also from the relationship perspective. To really be able to build camaraderie and teamwork. We just, had a fun Friday paintballing, not this past Friday, the week before.
Yeah.
Just literally in the afternoon, just connecting. Did we do anything about KPIs and metrics? Absolutely not. But we bonded as a team. We got stronger as a team. And so those are, a couple of things that from an organizational perspective are mission critical to make sure that your team's bonded, they're together, they're aligned, on the same mission.
Huge. I had a mentor when I was youth pastor, and I grew one of the largest youth ministries in the country back in the late 90s, early 2000s. And one of my mentors, I remember when she said it, and I was like, it caught me off guard. She said the group, she was talking about youth ministry. She had a youth ministry of over 1,000, about 1,200 students in her youth ministry. It was huge. And one of the two largest in the country. And I heard her say, she goes, the group that plays together stays together. And I was like, did she say prays together? Like, we're talking about youth ministry. And she was like, and some of you think I may have said pray together. She goes, no. Plays together. How much fun do you have? Do you incorporate fun into your culture? Are you laughing? Are you having a good, because business is hard. Like leadership development and growth isn't that easy. Like I walked into the gym this morning to do chest and try, and I'm like, I tell myself when I'm in the car, I look in my rearview mirror and I'm like, dude, I'm going to kick your ass today. Like we're going to this gym and it's on. I did a 20-minute Peloton, got a sweat going and head straight to, like, I want to go in and dominate. There's a little bit of a crushing and a tearing. And, I want to go in here. I'm going to crush this gym today. But the fun part of it is huge. And it develops so much team unity and synergy when you do that. How long in your journey of a leader did it take you to realize like this is important?
Longer than I probably would I'd like to admit, being very honest with you, Ken. Kind of like longer. It took me probably solid 12 months in my first business before I fully understood the value of leadership. We all knew, I've heard the buzzwords. I know leadership is important, but I was focused on fitness. I was focused on fat loss. I was focused on getting clients into shape.
Right.
But then, Ken, when I realized my business started to grow, I needed more team. I needed admin. I need coaches. And then I realized that leadership is always the problem and it's always the solution to organization. Yeah. And it's just this very humbling moment in time. So it probably all came, hand in hand, but I'm a little bit slower study in the grand scheme of things. But once I realized that leadership, teamwork, building a strong, organization, connecting with your team, playing with your team are so important in order to the whole, the alignment, things change for me.
What would you say to some people out there who are in the process? They've got one location and they're looking to scale, they're looking to grow, and they're just kind of out there trying to go, where do I turn? Why is, what you in leadership, me in self-development, why is you mentioned podcasts and books earlier. Why are those things so important for the development of a leader?
Well, number one, from a tactical perspective, they give you different ideas and different ways of thinking that, maybe haven't been organic, to you. So you're going to get more exposure first and foremost. And then also number two, you're going to be with other people that lift you up and that support you. We all know, and this is something that I hear you talk about all the time in your content, Ken, about community and how important community, live events change lives. When you go, when you connect with other people, when you put in information that's going to inspire you, then you start vibrating at a higher frequency. When you start vibrating at a high frequency, then you attract other people who are vibrating in that same frequency. So it just, consistency compounds. So I think, it's just so important from a tactical perspective, information perspective, but also from a culture and community perspective for you to be able to be tapping into other resources from a growth.
As a CEO, who are some of the main people that you follow that you grow from and glean from, like a book or a podcast or somebody that you love to go see speak live?
Oh, well, I mean, we've talked about him a few times now. John Maxwell for me is a legend. And when one of my franchise partners, one of my coaches asked me like, hey, I want to be a better leader. Who would I look up to? And first is 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, Leaderships by John Maxwell. Those two foundational, content is so important. Mindset. I'm huge on mindset. I've been following Tim Grover for quite some time. He has a book.
Tim's a stud, dude.
the book Relentless, just from a
Yeah.
mindset perspective, that's been really, really beneficial towards my life. So those are a couple of good recommendations off the top of my
I
head.
love that. I love that, dude. Tell me what's next for you as you in your growth and in Fit Body Boot Camp and as a CEO. Like, what's on the horizon? What's the vision look like? What are you excited about in the future?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. It's been just this weird world we've been in the last few years. Obviously with COVID was not kind to our business, especially, states that we talked about. But the last 18 months, we've been an incredible tear. So our growth, we've awarded, nearly 60 franchise partners in 2023, which is a monster year for us. So really just continue to build the infrastructure, continue to grow our fitness and fat loss program, continue to grow my leadership ability. As I mentioned before, leadership is always the problem and always the solution. I genuinely believe this. By connecting with guys like you, by digesting other particular pieces of content, I get better and my following grows and the impact grows. And that's really what I'm after. To what you talked about early, impact is everything. And going back to the initial point when you talked about what was the thing that made me make the change. Number one, I realized my ego was in the way. Okay, my ego is in the way. Number two, I went back to my roots, like what I really want to do on this planet. I'm supposed to impact other people in a very positive way. And I realized that I could impact more people on this particular trajectory, which will continue, Ken. So I guess that's my answer as we look into, deeper into 2024.
I love it, dude. We got to get you to Atlanta this week, man. You just need to book a flight. Come on, I got a ticket for you. Come hang out with me and the guys. It's going to be
a
man. Blast.
Yeah,
this week's going to be an absolute blast.
Dude, man, I'll be with you in spirit, but I'll definitely take you up on 2025.
Yeah, it's going to be amazing, dude. Final thoughts for our viewers and our listeners today, Bryce.
I sign off my podcast in this way. My friends, no one is coming to save you. You must save yourself, and the time is now. And that's my tagline, because you got to be listening to awesome guys like you. You got to be, tapping into different content that's going to inspire you. But there's also gets to a point where you can just go through an analysis by paralysis. Information alone is not going to be your saving grace. You need to take that information, you need to connect with other people, but you got to take action. And now's the time, because we got one shot this life. We got one spin around this globe, and we got to make it count. So that's my parting message for us.
I love it, dude. I love it. You got me fired up today, bro. Bryce, where's the best way for people to connect with you?
Well, my podcast is the Fitness CEO Podcast. That's a great platform. And then on social media, the real Bryce Henson, not to be confused with the fake Bryce Henson.
Fake Bryce Henson. Is there a fake Bryce Henson?
There's not.
There's just not a real one out there, though, is it? Other than you. Dude, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a great conversation. Dude, I love your spirit, man. You have such a calm and an authoritative spirit. I can understand why people want to follow you.
Thank you.
Because it's calm, and you can tell that it's vision led, and there's very little ego there, because you have a desire to have an impact and influence on people. And I think that's why, we talked about influence in those things earlier, and you talked about the vibration and the energy. It's like when Brian Covey, who's one of my close friends, dude, you got to have Bryce on your show. You got to connect with this person, or I'll say, you got to connect with this person. And I automatically know that if I connect, or if I'm taking and I am a connector, and I'm putting this relationship with this relationship, or like Brian connected us, I already know as soon as we get together, dude, there's going to be an instant connection.
Heck yeah.
Because of the energy and the desire. Well, dude, thank you for joining us today, man. I'm looking forward to building a relationship and watching you just continue to crush it, dude.
Thank you. And for what it's worth, I mean, this has been an honor for me. I've been engaging with your content for quite some time. Brian, Amberly, there's a lot of mutual friends that we have, and just been seeing you from afar, learning from you. I have a lot of respect, and I'm so excited, for this particular show, but even more excited for this coming week, your big event out in Atlanta.
I appreciate it, dude.
Good luck. Send you some love and good vibes, my friend.
I appreciate it. Guys, thank you for joining us on this episode of As the Leader Grows. And the real Bryce Henson, not to be confused with fake Bryce Henson. Guys, listen, follow him on Instagram, CEO of Fit Body Boot Camp. Listen, if you've got questions about my boy's got guns over here. If you got questions on how to get in shape, or you want to be a franchisee, or you just want to grow as a leader, connect with my guy, the real Bryce Henson, on Instagram, and learn from this dude. I'll see you next week on As the Leader Grows.